right now we are joined as scheduled by the co-managing editor of SB Nation's Maize and Brew. He's also a weekly contributor for the Detroit Free Press Sports page. He is Joshua Henschke. Joins us now, courtesy of the Bradford White Water Heaters Hotline. Joshua, thanks for taking some time. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, Josh. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Josh, we appreciate you taking some time, but I know you're wrapped up in this, and everybody will be until there's some resolution to it. So as we sit right here on 1:20 Eastern Standard Time here in the Detroit metropolitan area, what is the feel, what is the vibe like in Ann Arbor right now?
Well, I think, a lot of people are just kind of waiting for the proverbial axe to drop, I think. I don't see, after losing to Ohio State, even after losing to Maryland, that there's even a remote chance that Brady Hoke stays. I think now it's just at the point of it's a matter of time when that happens. Obviously, it hasn't happened today. Could happen tomorrow. I mean, if you want to talk about that scheduled meeting pre-scheduled meeting that Hoke is having with his team, I mean, you could make the argument that something could happen there. But at this point, no one really knows what's going to happen. And honestly, it could happen at any minute or any time now. So it's just kind of at this point, it's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
Josh, what kind of a message is this sending to the fan base that this isn't being done swiftly? And I know they might have a plan, and who knows, Les Miles could be on a plane soon, or even a Jim Harbaugh, if they could somehow pull that off. And we could be looking back in a month from now and saying, we understand why they took their time. But for now, the fan base is angry, and it's not swift action right now, which is what a lot of people want for a coach, quite honestly, that isn't very good.
Right. No, it's obvious that the relationship between, fans and alumni and boosters and what have you in the athletic department is very volatile right now. Obviously, with everything that happened with Dave Brandon this year, with him resigning, that's kind of culminated into one giant mess. But I think at this point, the message that they're sending, I don't necessarily mean it's a negative message, but, they're just they want to get this right. And I think they're at the point now that they've whiffed twice on Rich Rodriguez and Brady Hoke. And I think, they want to be dedicated to getting it right the third time. Whether that means they miraculously somehow bring Jim Harbaugh to Ann Arbor or even a Les Miles, I think, they want to take the time to get this right. But I think they also don't want to take too long to get this right. I know Brady Hoke's buyout drops by $1 million January 1st, but I think that's waiting a little bit too long. I'm not trying to compare, Florida and Michigan, but I know a lot of people like to see action like Florida did with Muschamp, a no-nonsense kind of, clean break. But it's just, it sounds so cliche, but it's just not the way Michigan does things, and it sounds like such a weak excuse. But, it's really not. Hoke is a good guy. He's given a lot to the university. Obviously, it hasn't worked out. He's not a very good coach, like you said, but he does. He's a
bad coach, Josh. He's a bad coach.
Right.
And the good guy. And listen, the good guy narrative is all well and good, and he is a Michigan man, and maybe it's the Michigan way to give him a chance to sit down with the new AD. And I don't mean to cut you off, but it drives me crazy. And I think you are right. Stop with maybe the Michigan way is the wrong way. Maybe they do need to be a kind of, excuse my language, dicky here and drop the hammer on him just to show the fan base, what? It's unacceptable what's going on, and we're going to make this change right here, right now to show you guys we're moving forward. And they're kind of dragging their feet, which is the same thing they did with the Morris thing and everything else.
Right. They should. I absolutely agree there that they should do that. But will they do that? Probably not. It's just, again, it's just not the way Michigan does things. I honestly, with all the stuff that's happened this year, like you said, the Morris situation and everything else that's happened, the inundated apologies, statements that we've seen this year that I personally haven't seen in years of Michigan football. It's kind of at that point where they just need to just cut it loose, just let it go, and start over. Unfortunately, it may or may not set you back a couple of years. Obviously, you got to get it right. And I personally think you got to get it right with a home run hire. But, like you said, it's got to be a clean break, and you got to do it as soon as possible. There's no dragging your feet here. You just can't afford to.
Joshua Henschke joining us, the co-managing editor of SB Nation's Maize and Brew. You can follow them on Twitter at Maize and Brew, also a weekly contributor to the Free Press Sports Department, courtesy of the Bradford White Water Heaters Hotline. And Joshua, you said it. They need a home run hit, which is what they do need. I mean, make no mistake about it. When you're struggling the way this program has been struggling in the past, you need to knock one out of the park. Taking Harbaugh out of it, how can they do that? If Harbaugh doesn't turn out to be the guy, how can they hit a home run?
That's interesting because after Harbaugh, you have Les Miles, you have that little group of Michigan men that's had Michigan experience, which I don't think should be a prerequisite for any job. But that's just the way it's going to be at Michigan. And after that, it's really tough to determine who would be a legitimate candidate and who's not. And we've seen what Florida is already reaching out to the Colorado State head coach, and there was a report out there that Hugh Freeze was even getting contacted by Florida. So, if they wait any longer, they might miss out on a potential home run guy. But if you're looking at with your Michigan goggles on. Anyone outside of Jim Harbaugh or Les Miles probably won't go over too well with the fan base. And I even personally don't think Les Miles is a guaranteed home run hire anyway. You want someone with longevity, and he gives you maybe 5 years to stabilize a program, and what happens after that? You have to guarantee that Miles has someone to groom, like Lloyd Carr did not when he retired in 2006, 2007.
Hey, Josh, I want to ask you about Les. I think he's a terrific coach, and I think he's fun, and I think he would add a lot and really put smiles on a lot of people's faces. But the LSU situation is interesting. That team's been loaded with talent the last 2 years, yet they've lost 7 conference games over the last 2 years. And you got guys in the NFL like Odell Beckham and others saying, I don't know how we didn't win more games the last couple of years. Well, all these NFL players. Is he on the decline a little bit?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think the SEC has become a lot more competitive since, the LSU, since they were on top for a lot of years, a couple years back when they faced off against Alabama in that rematch in the championship game. So, I don't think he's on the decline. I think he's a young 60, 61, 62, however old he is. Like you said, he would be a fun guy, a fun guy to cover. Fun guy for fans, but I just don't see that longevity out of him. But I don't think there's no denying what he's done at Oklahoma State and LSU. He's a winner, not like Greg Madison's definition of winner, but he is a winner, and I think he'll do well for Michigan. But it's tough to say what he'd do with with the Midwest. Down south, it's a whole new breed of animal down there. I'm not sure how well that will translate to the Big Ten.
Well, Josh, thanks for taking some time and joining us, giving your thoughts on the whole Brady Hoke situation. We'll keep you on the speed dial in case some stuff breaks, all right?
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot for having me on.
All right, that was Joshua Henschke, the co-managing editor of SB Nation's Maize and Brew, also contributor for the Detroit Free Press Sports Department as well. And Diesel, that's kind of where we're at with it. Outside of Jim Harbaugh, I don't believe there is a home run they can hit.
I think Les would be a definite double into the gap. I'm a fan. I just wonder, what are the expectations going to be for Michigan fans if Les Miles comes here? If they think that he's bringing national championships, look, Les Miles, what he did at LSU a few years back, you go back to 07 when they won it all. They've had some down years there. 2011, make it to the title game and losing to Bama. I'm just concerned over the last 2 years why they've had issues. All the pro players, kids like Odell Beckham and others, that Jarvis Landry, they're in the pros now. What happened? Why have they not lived up to expectations? That's 7 conference losses over the last 2 years. He's 61. I'd take him in a second, but I'd love to know what fans would think the expectations were. Harbaugh, home run, grand slam, of course.